My name is Tony D'Agostino. I'm with Care 360. I'm the CEO and founder, and welcome to our pop-up executive webinar series. Today, we'll be having a fantastic presenter on inspiring effective leadership with Susan MacDonald. We look forward to having Susan as a guest. And before we get started, we're going to go through our agenda and appreciate you all coming on board. So we know about it. Some of the housekeeping items in this welcome first is you have a toolbar that's in front of you. And in this toolbar, you'll see a number of different functions. One is there is a chat function, there's a Q&A function, and there's polls. Please use the chat function if you want to talk to our team. We have Leah, who's running point on the back end, who leads our marketing. So if you have any questions, insights, or things that you would like for the team to learn about, or links that you would like to have, or contacts you would like to have, please use chat. For the Q&A would be questions that you would like to ask for Susan or myself and be part of the conversation. We also will be using polling. So since we will be using polling, we will be asking you some polling questions. We have one that's pretty much up front near Susan, the beginning of Susan's presentation, and then one near the end, but we'd love to have your swift participation in that. It would be very helpful. So we talked about those questions, and we're going to go into a couple housekeeping before we get started with Susan, which is a little bit of how we pay the bills, but also to give you some insights on a number of things that we are up to in Care 360. And we will be talking about upcoming webinars as well as two of those different kind of programs that we have running. Then we'll introduce you to Susan on the program, and we will talk about at the very end some special programs associated with one of our offerings. So with that said, no further ado, and let's jump in. And the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to tell you just a little bit about our upcoming series. Now, this is something that we've talked about. If you have seen our last webinar, it was with John Rizzo, and a lot of you know both John and Dan. They are our financial experts. John and Dan with RDG and partners have been instrumental over the past year with looking at PPP and the CARES Act and how it affects you and your business. Because of that being such a very successful program and something that has really made an impact for all of our businesses, we have partnered with them, and for the remaining months of this year, we have a series of once a month conversations with them. In these conversations, we're going to be addressing key financial items about your business in the ECE and childcare space. Really talking about elements like key performance indicators, if you were to go through an acquisition, succession, obviously continuing the conversation around the CARES Act, PPP grants, and much more, the effect of taxes, and really having some time to answer your questions too. So we are going to dive into a lot of your questions. Ahead of time of these webinars, we're going to send out requests of what kind of questions you would like to get answered. So be prepared. Coming April 27th at 1:30 is our next one. So that's just a couple weeks away. All right. And key performance indicators is the first one that we're going to talk about. What are those things on your P&L that you really can make a focus to move the needle for your financial performance of your business? Again, we want to tell you a little bit about, and for those of you who have not heard, this has been something that has been just absolutely getting some real earth movement in our ECE space, and that is our IC360 ECE Healthy Advantage solution. The ECE Healthy Advantage solution was developed over the past 2 years specific for our industry. We really worked hard to try to find a way to create something that was a highly affordable and flexible program. The value of it being affordable is really affordable both to your teachers and your staff, as well as you as owners and operators. Teachers and staff could very well be paying as low as $11.50 a paycheck, or up to about $90 for the highest end program for their entire family, but it gives them a really strong degree of support. And we'll talk about what they get out of that. For owners, for the first 10 employees, you pay $50, and after that, $25. There is a 10 employee minimum if you are interested in this program. It is very flexible, but it offers 5 different types of programs, from a telemedicine all the way to the ultimate package that gives you things such as $15 office visits and specialist visits, $50 urgent care visits. And I know, for instance, a person who's very close to me just went for an urgent care visit and has a high deductible program and had to go, and it was $150 for the visit. So this is at $50 for lab, x-rays, all your preventative is included with all of these programs. And all the programs include telemedicine outside of just the telemedicine program. It's very easy implemented. We have a benefit administration team, so it really comes across like a Fortune 500, Fortune 1000 type of program. That means someone is there to help you roll it out and explain it to every one of your employees. And now that COVID's opening up, we were doing it virtual, but now we are doing it face-to-face for those locations and schools who would like it face-to-face, as well as virtual if that's appropriate still for your school and for your teachers. But it's there to really support them and get all of their questions answered. The enrollment specialists help them think through their decisions, making their decisions, but then take that information, helping you with surveys and census and getting the information processed and enrolled, and then the billing set up and the billing set up for payroll. So all that administrative burden that tends to sit on us as owners, it now sits on this program. So it takes that off of your plate. And it's Affordable Care Act compliant. That is a huge issue. With our new administration, the Affordable Care Act is really prime in sight. And if you are getting close to 50 FTEs or over, you're going to really want to pay attention to the Affordable Care Act. So there's Part A and Part B. Part A is really the big penalty that you are offering a qualified plan, and Healthy Advantage is that qualified plan. Part B just is allowing that if people do go to the state shop, that there is a bill back to your company if that happens, which is a lot less, and any company has to support that. And with this, though, it is important to realize that we have a 1.5 to 2 month lead up. And right now we do have a bit of a backlog. So we've had so much interest in this program. We are now signing up 5 to 10 new members for Healthy Advantage a month, which I believe is going to be very helpful for them. The second program, which is really important, is something that is new that we are offering. We've already done our first class, actually for owner and operators, but this one is specific to administrative, and this is perfect timing because of what we're talking with Susan today, but administrative leadership development. So regarding directors, regional directors, executive directors, this is a certification program on leadership. In this program, you really are focusing on moving individuals from being managers to really being able to lead and focus on leadership. It empowers it helps you empower the team, and for that director to empower their teams so they become empowered but also accountable with their actions. Instead of telling your staff what to do, your leaders start to help empower them and inspire them on what to do. It's really supportive for your teammates and your teachers and your assistant teachers to start solving their own issues and not dump all their issues either on your desk or your administrative team's desk. So it really helps your managers today to become leaders. And it really builds what I call a coaching culture. That is a culture that really focuses on not always trying to solve the individual's problem, but really help that individual who has an issue to help think through that, is what true leadership does. And it will help you reduce your turnover because it's more of an engaged culture, and will certainly help increase your recruitment, which are 2 of the top issues that we have going on in our market today. And what we're really doing is we're striving to have your leadership as to just managers make your schools a great place to work. So with that said, there is a program that we have that is going to be in April, kicked off. We already have it. It is almost full. I think we have 3 or 4 spots left. If you are interested, we do have a free half-hour session. Leah should be posting that in the chat box. If you are interested, if you click on that link, you will see about signing up for just this Learn More session. You can learn a little bit more about what it would be to have one of your directors, administrators in the program. And for those of you who do attend that, there is a special offer for you that you will get towards that program that I think you'll see is very encouraging. So with that said, if I could have Susan, if you could come on and take yourself off of mute. How are you today, Susan?
Oh, I'm great. Wonderful to be here with all of you.
Great. Wonderful to have you. Susan MacDonald is the founder of the consulting group, Inspiring New Perspectives. Her focus is on truly empowering school leaders and educators, as well as really being a true coach in the ECE world to really develop the next generation of leaders through your teachers as well as your administrators. And she is also an author. So Susan, as I welcome you, I'm sort of handing over the reins to you of this presentation because this is now becoming your presentation and you just asked me to move forward and we will do whatever you need.
Yeah, start the slides, Tony, and we'll jump in. So I'm thrilled. It's really wonderful to hear about your leadership program is kind of in full alignment with my work and my beliefs on really empowering leaders at all levels to think about how we're bringing our very best to the programs, to the teachers, to the families. So my work, just as a grounding um, description, really grew out of my work in Massachusetts as a state licensing supervisor. I was working for many years to improve quality and align with licensing. And I saw a great need to really rethink how we were leading programs, how we were connecting to our staff, how we were bringing our very best forward. So that is a huge shaping point for me. And the second one I want to mention is after I left licensing, I directed a Reggio-inspired preschool for 10 years. So
Fantastic.
really living in your shoes, being part of the, the hiring and the budgeting and enrolling families was a big shift for me, as well as having a licensor license me. So I've had, both perspectives on this. And my books have grown out of that work to really find ways that I'm bringing these strategies in useful ways, in ways that are going to impact change. So I'm, in this short time we have together, really want to talk through some of, for me, the fundamental pieces of this work and how we can start establishing new ways of being and working together. So the first one I want to talk about is positivity. We have to, even in this very challenging time that we're in, step forward as leaders, as owners, as directors, as curriculum specialists, whatever hat we're wearing. We have to step into this work with a positive mindset. And I'm deeply inspired by the work of John Gordon, his Energy Bus book. It's just such a beautiful analogy for how we're getting everybody moving forward together. But this essence that our positive energy and vision must be greater than anyone's and everyone's negativity is kind of a byline for 2020, right?
Oh my
That
God.
we have to believe this. And our certainty has to be greater than everyone's doubts,
And
so yeah, go ahead, Tony.
Susan, well, let me ask you that. So let's get really practical right out of the gate. Positive energy, vision, showing that overtaking negativity. This past year has been like a huge elephant dropped on all of us, right?
Absolutely.
And we're trying to get out from underneath that elephant. You know, because we can't get as deep as your great books that you have there. What are some of the thoughts that you have? I know you're going to get into some of it in your mindset here of what you talk about in this presentation, but when you think of trying to get out of negativity, what is sort of where your mind wraps around about getting out of negativity?
I think the first thing is to really think about, and you brought this up in our offline conversation, Tony. What have we learned that's gone really well? Wow, the way we're dropping off children has
Yeah,
led to smoother transitions, has led to children getting the attention they need, has created less stress for child, teacher, parent, in these interactions. So if we want to move towards the positive, we have to start keeping a list. I like to call it the win list. What's really working? What are some of the things that are really coming together? Whether people keep a gratitude journal or a win list. And it's not, to me, just keeping it, it's sharing it. How are you starting your staff meetings? By, wow, was a little rocky earlier in the week, but the things that have stood out for me are, whoa, whoa, whoa. What are those moments, even if they're 30-second snapshots, that you are walking around, not just embracing a positive mindset, but looking through that lens of what's going really well. So find a way that you're stepping into your day, that you're stepping into your programs, into your interactions, highlighting the very best of what's going on, so that you then can learn from that and grow and develop. And this isn't saying there's no challenges. This is saying, what is the mindset that we're approaching our day-to-day work with? Go
I
with the
love
positive.
I love that. I love that validation. One of the things I do with my directors for my multiple centers is I have a Tuesday morning meeting. So I already actually had it today. And in that meeting, we go through a lot of things like our numbers and what are some of the challenges we have and what are some of the opportunities we have. But what we always end with is what was your win for the past week? And I think that sort of follows along with what you were just saying. So I think
Yeah.
we might be doing it right. I'm not sure. I'm hoping we are because we will also improve.
I'll
So
give you one tip on that, Tony, just from my
please
perspective.
bring it on,
When
Susan.
we start staff meetings with, what are some of the challenges? What are our numbers? We sometimes inadvertently create a little negative spiral going
Mm,
downward.
okay.
Start with the wins. What's been a
Okay.
highlight? Get that energy up. What did we learn from that? How is that reflected in our numbers? What are we looking forward to in the next week? How are we going to build on these wins? What new ideas do we have, as a wrap up? But I found in any of these interactions, whether I'm working with a director group or a whole staff meeting, if I start where there's a vulnerability, the meeting can just change energy. I want to start with a really great win. I want to start with a great piece of music. I want to get everyone
Love it.
going up and then go from there.
I love it. I love it. Great suggestion because we do have it near the end because we wanted to leave people with a positive, but I hear you clearly and I think we're going to have to adapt it. So Jen P, if you're on the call,
Mm.
we got to go that direction. So
Yeah.
thank you, Susan, for that. That's
And
awesome.
in beginning. So
Yeah,
you're never going to lose from that. If you set your program up for success with that positive mindset, it's going to spill over into everything you do. And
that's
this is
awesome.
my number one strategy for this, is having a clear vision. But before I get into that, we're going to do a quick poll around how many people have a vision right now, positive, inspiring, guiding, that's going to lead your staff, that's going to lead your hiring, that's going to lead your leadership work in the next 12 to 18 months. So just
Yeah.
a quick poll, yes or no?
So we have the poll. Do you have a current vision to guide and inspire your program forward in the next 12 to 18 months, as Susan was asking? A lot of times we write a vision when we first get into the business and we're like, well, this is my vision. I'm going to put it in the drawer. I might put it in my handbook. Someone will see it. And I know that I at least have it. So what I learned from Susan today, she's like, nope, vision has to keep on be rewritten over and over again. Love the idea, love the concept of that. So we're going to close down this poll. We have about 71% who have already answered it. So we're going to give it only 5 more seconds, and then we're going to share the results. So just a couple more people coming in, and let's end the poll because I think we have a little bit of feedback. Susan, what do you think?
Yay! Yay! I'm so happy. When I see this energy that people have the vision, that is the blueprint that's going to guide us forward. If I don't have a current one, if I don't have one right now, or as if Tony said, I have one in the drawer somewhere, it's time to shake it up. And it's time to hit the refresh button. Because even if I wrote the most perfect vision for the next 2 years in January 2020, I need to rethink that. We're in a different place. We're in a different world. We need to own this in a different way. So I want to clarify something you said, Tony. When we're starting our business, we often write these really great mission statements like who we are, what we believe. And those can stay current for 50 years. I work with a nonprofit in the Boston area that they are still very true to that mission that established them. But their vision of how they're going to live and inspire growth and change related to that mission is what needs to be refreshed. And we need to think of our vision as something that's going to take us to that next level. I like to use the Reggio schools as an example. In 1990, they were written up as the finest schools in the world. They didn't say, okay, we're done. every year or two, there's a new vision of what they're working towards, what they're embracing, how they're aligning with that mission to really focus on the best schools for children, to align with social democracy and justice in the classroom. So look at your vision as that first step to building the future you desire now, right now in this state. Who do I want to be when this, is over? Who do I want to be in September of 2022? Put a date in there and then really think about how you're going to empower your staff, inspire your work, bring in parents, really connect to your community based on your vision. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about creating a vision statement in a collaborative way. So on the next slide, I talked to you about vision boards. And so many people think, well, it's kind of wooey, new age stuff. No, this is really grounding work. And anytime I've done this virtually with a group, in person, with the whole program, things have shifted. We're creating that change that we want. So as a little gift and inspiration for you, I put together a 2-page fact sheet just on how to create a collaborative vision statement that you can go back and do this with your leadership team, with your programs, however you want to use it. But asking everybody to create a vision board of this program at its very best. And really think about that, at our very best, and put a date in there, September 2022, December 2022. And have them tell a story of what that would look like for them. What do they believe? What do they want to see? It brings all of your strengths right up to the surface. And what I do with large groups is I had a group of 80 staff do this. And the director's like, oh, not everyone's going to do it. I said, let's fill the staff room with great materials, just poster boards, stickers, markers. 80 people, 80 vision boards came to the meeting.
Wonderful.
And we broke them up, whether we were the exec director or the bus driver. You were in groups of 10 and you shared your vision, and everyone collected the keywords that came up. And then the group shared them. And the energy and the synergy of people sharing very similar things created the vision statement for that program to go forward in a way that everyone felt heard and everyone felt invested in that work.
Well, that's what I was going to ask. I was going to give you the ultimate softball and question.
Throw it on over.
It's a very easy softball here. So vision, oftentimes people think, who are leaders, hey, listen, I need to create a vision because I need to paint a picture for the future of where we're going to be as an organization. What is the value of getting your team engaged to help you define that vision as to you doing it yourself as an owner operator?
To me, it's like two different universes,
I
Tony.
know, but I told you I'm giving you a softball here.
when people feel, it's almost that question of like managers versus leaders. A manager's going to say, here's where we're going, and here's what I need you to do. A leader's going to say, what does the very best look like? Where do you see our strengths? Where can we grow? And how can we do this in a collaborative way? And then we invite people into the process, not just the vision. After we wordsmith the vision with some groups within that large organization, we put it up at the next staff meeting, and we had people go back to their teams and write what would have to happen here for this vision to come to life. And through that work, crystal clear, 8 goals that everyone was invested in because they wrote the vision and they wordsmithed the goals. Now, if I sat down with the owner, with a board member, and said, hey, let's write a vision, and then, hey, we can pull some goals out of this, they actually might not have been that technically different, but the energy around inspiring and leading and growing that organization, totally different.
Yes, and the ownership of that vision is no longer just yours. It is the entire team's. And that's probably the most valuable element of it.
Yeah, and that's why the exercise I gave you is called creating a collaborative vision statement. It has to be that collaboration, has to be that energy that's coming from everybody. And then as I'm setting goals with individual staff members, with parts of my program, the infant program, the toddler program, we can align back to the vision. When I'm thinking about who we need to hire in the next year, we can look at that vision and goals. It's all there. Say a little bit about this on the next slide, Tony. What I find is when we have that vision clear, that's when the creative potential just opens up. So this work, and I'm going to talk about this a little bit, that guides my work, appreciative inquiry, talks so much about, really focusing on this positive to create positive change. But for me, the vision is the key to mobilizing creative potential and really turning it into that positive energy and power that's going to create the change. So if you have that vision right, you can set those ripples of confidence, energy, and enthusiasm flying. But if you're just up there saying, here's what we're going to do, nothing's moving. You're not mobilizing creative potential in the same way.
So let me ask you, Susan, from the very practical implementation of mobilizing creative potential, really getting in there, doing all the positive energy. We have at some of our centers and schools, I'm talking metaphorically, not so much mine, but the people who are out here, and I've had in the past, you have a couple individuals, no matter what that vision is, they are that devil's advocate. They are the naysayer. They are the individual who is going to try to derail your positive energy. Okay. And if people are like, well, I never had someone, I like, listen, that's awesome. We're coming and we're going to look at your school. We're going to study your school. We're going to make sure everybody knows how to do that. But for the most part, we have such a dynamic element of people. There is a lot of negativity. And how do you deal with that when you are trying to bring that positivity as an owner operator?
I think that the best analogy for me is sort of the energy bus type of analogy. It fits so beautiful with our school image. If I'm a leader and everyone's on the bus and we know where we're going and we're excited about where we're stopping and we're excited about what we're having for lunch, like everyone's in the same energy state, like, wow, we are creating this. I'm part of this. How many people does it take to stop that bus? One person out in front flag in their hands. One person, even if I have this great staff of 80 people.
Right?
It's up to me as the leader to address that individual. And what I've found in all of my work in this field is there's the one person who might be stopping the bus, and then there's a friend on the bus whispering in everyone's ear. There's like a dual dynamic there. One very visible, one a little less visible.
Yeah.
If I need to have performance conversations, and people will call me in and say, yeah, we have a good plan, but things aren't going so well and some people are stopping the energy. Well, how long has Jane been causing this problem? How long has she been draining, the positive energy? Oh, 5 to 7 years. 5 to 7 years. One lady at a national conference stood up and told me 20 years. This is not that person's problem. This is a
No,
leadership problem.
This is your leadership's problem because you're not addressing your issue.
So if I sit down, I'll give you a very clear example. When I took over this Reggio school, they wanted to realign with their vision and values around the Reggio work. And we had one teacher who was the perfect model of a 1970s traditional teacher in her classroom. And we could say either she's stopping the bus or we're inviting her on the journey. Who could we partner her with? What are the expectations? What are we putting in her very specific performance plan, in her individual professional development plan? Because when I go in and talk to people about Jane stopping the bus, I say, how are you addressing her negative conversations or negative? Oh, no, we don't have anything like that. We have nothing in writing. I look at her performance thing and it's about her circle time. No, this is about how we're living and leading in our classrooms. So we need to address it. If we come up with energy blocks, if we have people that are stopping the energy, my approach is to review their vision, really talk to them about their role here. What can they bring? How can I mobilize their creative potential?
Yeah,
So
I've always seen, I'm sorry to cut in with you, Susan. I've always seen that what you're talking about, and leadership is really the key component of building an amazing culture in your schools. And to do that though, and you do have those toxic individuals, if you don't address it, you have to be seen as sort of the shepherd of your culture. And you are always leading that culture. It is up to you to take care of that culture, to ensure it. And even if you say where you're going down the path, she does amazing several times. The parents just love her to death. Oh my God, I don't know how we do it without her. Yet she's undermining your culture. Right. You have to really evaluate, are you really being a shepherd of your culture? So back to you. Sorry, just it got me
No,
thinking.
no, that is so essential. If we're not being shepherds of our culture, we're not going to have a culture. You
Right.
know, there's a quote that says, it takes 100 years to grow this amazing tree. It takes one day to chop it down. It's the same with your culture. This one person can chop it down. So let's move on to the next slide and really think about this. All that we were just talking about, if our work with our vision is to have positive actions and outcomes, then we need to every single day be putting forth positive energy and emotion. And that's across the program. So we have this negative pocket or this negative group. We have to address that because, physics wasn't my favorite subject in high school, but like energy attracts like energy comes to play. And one of my favorite tips for dealing with staff on this is go to the NACCE Code of Ethics. This is the code of ethics for our field. Doesn't matter you're accredited or not, but the language in the Code of Ethics around, we shall do nothing to diminish the reputation of another person. We respect the dignity and worth of each individual. There's your language for the performance plan. Positive, strength-based, and it's from the field. It's not like, hey, I don't like how you're acting, Tony. It's like, this is how we live. This is the energy. This is how we live in this organization. Has to be crystal clear. So
Love it.
set up that vision to define your positive outcomes and actions, then live that positive energy, even with our most difficult people, because we have two choices, right? We're either dancing with them or we're dancing around them. And if we're dancing around these negative people, we're not going to get to move up this ladder here to positive outcomes.
And one of the things, I'm so sorry, because
No, go.
one of the things that I think is really critical, which I think you're really going to get into here, is you have teammates who are always joining. We know that there is turnover in this field,
Right.
and it's not just because your school has a lot of turnovers, because we know that there's some transient, there's people who are in school, that people have other career aspirations, but you need to document those code of ethics, that code of conduct. You need to make sure that it's well communicated when someone comes into your schools, because if not, they can't be on the same bus as you were putting it, Susan, unless you tell them what the code of ethics are that you guys are going to live by. So,
absolutely. And that's
how
the
do you
next
think is a
piece of
good
this.
practice? Okay, good.
Positive conversations and interactions. I need to be having these conversations at interviews. I need to be following through. What am I doing with my first 90 days? How am I observing? How am I catching some of this? How am I modeling this? How am I expressing this in our trainings, in our handbooks? We need to show up and really be in service of all of this in our interactions. And the more we can express and model and communicate this, the easier it's going to be to avoid getting that negative person kind of stopping the bus.
That's
So we need to
awesome.
be asking positive questions. We really need to be thinking through what are these. When I work with groups, I have them really script out a conversation. If they have the Jane stopping the bus, what are we talking about? Where are we going? What are the expectations? I want to engage this person. I want to highlight, hey, 3 years ago, you were like the leader of the art in our toddler program. That project you did on Picasso was like, still stays in my mind. What could we do next? What ideas do you have for bringing your best self to the work? If I don't prepare and script and review, and people say, well, what if there's nothing positive to talk about? I say, who's writing the check every week to someone who's not bringing value or has anything positive in your program? That's a different issue. If you have someone that you cannot see anything positive and you continue to employ them, you are cutting down the tree of your own culture. So go to the positive, and if you find through these types of reflections it's not there, then you need to really rethink, other processes for this person. But the bottom two are really key in all aspects of our leadership and in our vision. We have to show up every day. And I know for the past year, it's been a huge challenge with positive anticipation of the future. We're going to serve the children who are with us today. We're going to keep everyone healthy. We had to reshift this, but we had to believe that we were going to continue to do the very best that we could. And we know this. We've been keeping children healthy for decades. We know best practices. We know how to hand wash and sanitize countertops. So really bringing the strengths of what we know into the present and into the future, and living every day with that sense that we're going to be growing, improving, living it. Because if I think, oh my God, this is hopeless, I can't believe it, the only people left are the negative Nellies, you're going down the negative spiral with them,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
So taking that shift and the question you asked before about how we're living this and how we're creating space for that comes into what I wanted to talk about next in terms
Before you
of.
do, let me ask you, can I
Sure,
ask you a question about this?
sure.
You know, outside of like the toxic individual, the negative Nelly, like you were mentioning, during COVID, we've had a number of, we've had challenges, and even outside of COVID and what have you, the challenges have been like all of a sudden you've got 3 staff and you got to shut down a room because they have COVID. You take a deep breath going, how am I going to do this? How am I going to deal with the parents? The parents are going to be upset or whatever. Or you have like in a traditional world outside of a lockdown, you have CPS come in for an issue that might have happened with a parent, but they unclear half the room. Okay. And
Mhm.
all of a sudden, like, now I have to wake up every morning and I have to be positive. I have to be energized when everybody else is. What are some of the things that you believe in, even as the weight is really coming down on the owner operator, to try to get yourself into a positive mindset before you walk in every day?
Well, I just did a whole series around self-care, for leaders because everyone's a little bit different. But if I know that going for a walk 20 minutes in the morning before I go to school clears my head, that's great. If I'm someone who has found great peace in meditation, I need to bring these practices in. I need to find ways that I'm using the time that I have, and that just switch slides for me, Tony. This number is magical to me related to this question. 168, and I wake up every Sunday morning with this in my head. That's what we're all given, 168 hours a week. If I know I'm going to have 55 very stressful hours reorganizing and reshaping my program because of whatever happened, what do I need to do during those other hours? What do I need to do before I enter the building? What do I need to do at noontime? I know a lot of people are not taking a lunch hour, but I need to, for 10 minutes, do something. I need to reshift my energy. So bringing in mindfulness practices, bringing in practices that de-stress you, bringing in practices that energize you. One director told me she developed a playlist. We played a lot of songs in the series I was running. And for the first 10 minutes of the day before the classrooms open, she would have this music playing throughout the building that brought her up, but it brought everyone else up. And then another
Awesome.
director said that she loved quotes and she put quotes in all the staff rooms and on the walls. It's like, what are we surrounding ourselves with? What are we taking in? Barbara Fredrickson, who's done a lot of the positivity work, has an article that's just so timely. It came out right before COVID, but it's called, Do You Have Enough Positivity in Your Diet? And we all have different diets, but we need to make sure that what works for me is in this 168 hours.
That's awesome. Love it.
Yeah, that's great. Well, the next thing, it's such a short presentation. I want to hit on a couple of more things. This sense of having the vision, of practicing self-care, of bringing positivity in, to me, all funnels into this growth culture and how we are really focusing on the adult community to continue to grow, evolve, and work together. And this is a conversation, like you said, that starts at the very beginning. How am I asking someone in an interview, what have you been most excited about to learn in the past year or two? What's a area of this field that you're really passionate about learning more about? What do you see yourself growing and learning in the next 3 to 5 years? Because people come in and I have this degree or I've had this experience and they kind of flatline. If we're going to model this, if we are going to grow and develop our programs, we have to have individuals who are passionate about learning and growing themselves. Carlina Rinaldi, and the head of the Reggio Children Work, says there's no creativity in the child if there's no creativity in the adult.
So
And,
true.
and we've all seen that. So how do we live this growth culture is kind of where I want to wrap up today. So on the next slide, we talk a little bit about how to start doing this. How are we empowering teachers to really be innovative, to bring their creative self to the work, to get them to shift and do something that maybe they've done in the past or done it differently, but to move away from what I love, this acronym, TTWWADI syndrome, that I think has impacted our field, that's the way we've always done it. So if people are pulling out the April 1st box and, out come the egg cup flowers, it's like, what are kids excited about? What are they passionate about? What are you excited about? Really getting them to move past that. Really being willing to discuss differing perspectives, not argue, fight, gossip, judge, talk, engage, learn. Have teachers contributing to their own professional development plans, asking them about what their goals are for the year. What's a challenge they're facing and how would they like to move past it? What's been a highlight of their year and how they would like to share that with other people? Have them be in dialogue about their own growth. And most importantly with this, let them know you believe in them, that you see their strengths and that you want to share their strengths. One of my favorite examples in the US of a school with a very strong growth culture is the Boulder Journey School in Colorado. And everybody on the staff has a job in the building that is different than their teaching job. I might be someone who does parent tours because I was a parent in this program. I might be on the hallway beautification. I might be a library person. I might be a STEM person. Everyone is contributing to the whole of the organization and mentoring and modeling growth in different aspects than I'm a 2-year-old teacher. Get people fired up. I had a toddler teacher who could have been a college English professor. She did my newsletter corrections. She loved to come in with her red pen and put in the semicolons. And she just, like, when she walked in the room, I could tell she felt differently, that it was her day to do this. And it was my day to go and read to the toddlers, that she was taking this over. Shine the light on what people's strengths are, even if they're outside of their day-to-day role. Let them be seen for their strength.
So Susan, let
So,
me ask you, I think this is really great. And you talk about a lot of, big picture ideas. For those people who are listening today, what are some things that they could walk away just right out of this presentation to start thinking about? I can take action now on empowering. A lot of us talk about it, but actually taking
yes.
action is critical. What do you think are some of the things that people could just, write down on their notepad now and say, hey, listen, I just want a few different ideas, what I can just do right away?
Okay. Well, here's the question to ask yourself. I always answer questions with a question. What cries for your attention and devotion? Where is that person who's stopping the bus? Where is the loose
Mhm.
link in the chain? How do I go and build them up? How do I read through their file for their highlights? How do I bring them into a new role to support somebody else? How do I help them see that they're integral to this organization? If I want to empower positive change, I need to empower everybody in this organization. So I need to put on the strength-based lens. I need to really own that. And I really need to think about, who am I dancing around? Because if I'm dancing around this issue and not addressing it, I'm not going to be able to fully align and aspire. And everyone sees this. Anytime I've addressed an issue situation that might have stretched on a little bit too long, even if the staff don't know the particulars, they'll come in and they'll say, oh, you finally took that on. What took you so long? And I think, oh, they really like her. They don't want me to, like, fire this person or make a change or change classrooms, and everyone is feeling the negative drain of this person, even though they might be professional colleagues. It still isn't right to not address what needs to address. So clarify that vision, get people excited about it, empower people to live the change. I have a few more ideas actually on the next slide about this.
Okay,
That if
great.
we want to do this, we have to really think about, is my vision clear? I love that so many of you said, yes, I have one. Second question, does everyone who lives in is involved in my program know it and can state it? Is it evident when you walk in the building what that vision is and what we're working towards? One program I worked with, that wasn't the case. They did a collaborative vision. They put it up on the wall, had it laminated like in a Staples type of thing. And every month, a different classroom had to put up photographs of that vision coming to life in their classroom. And they talked about it at the staff meeting on the second Tuesday. And people were like, it's our month, it's our month. It becomes very visible, it becomes very shared. Acknowledge and validate people's commitments. Every single person is contributing something. Make sure that you're taking time. Think of the 5 love languages. How could I acknowledge and validate people's strengths? A small note, a token. Build that collaborative environment by getting people to share their strengths. I not only know them, but hey, Jane, you want to come in and help me with the newsletter? Is such a great pat on the back. Hire for a growth mindset. This has to start at the beginning. If you get someone that says, well, I thought I'd work here, I live close by, and you don't work after 5, and I like that, you're setting yourself up. Get someone who's excited about what you're excited about. Share your vision with them and say, what interests you about this? What do you see when you read this? What excites you? The next one, use your observation and feedback sessions to highlight strengths. Yes, they're going to be tied into your goals and we want to see people growing, but people need to know that we see them for more than just their weaknesses. And the research on this is when people are supported from their strengths, the weaknesses become irrelevant because they feel confident enough to take them on. And then especially now, the research on positivity, fun, what that does, what could we do for our staff that's really going to engage people, that's going to build them up, that's going to create a new sense of energy is really, really key. And maybe it won't be today, but what am I going to do in the next 2 months? What can I start planting the seeds for? How can I start my staff meeting a little differently? Or how can I set up the time for these individual conversations? Simple things that really build that connection. One director told me recently, they don't have a lot of money with the COVID situation, but every staff member on their birthday, she gets a coffee for them. And they sit in this other area of the building. And she said, people are coming in, it's like May 12th, right? Like they really want her to know what the day is because they want that 20 minutes of person's time, just being connected. So her little coffee club has really taken off. So
That's
it's
awesome.
not just the big things, it's the little things. So a couple of things to wrap up for yourself as a leader in any of this. You need to stay current. You need to be passionate. One of my practices of self-care is reading, and I have hundreds of books, but I'm just reading this Helping People Change with Compassion book. It just is really validating so many things that I'm thinking about that I can bring to my presentations. So what are you reading? What are you connecting with? What's inspiring you? How are you staying current on what's happening in the field? I know Facebook, LinkedIn, there's so many groups you can just drown in it. Pick a couple of things that really inspire you. Talk to people, build a connection. I had a woman come on a retreat with me that I do in Italy every year for school leaders from Singapore. And when she got there, I said, how did you find the connection? She said, oh, I've been in this Facebook group with you for years and I always comment on what you're commenting on. And she felt like, a deep connection to me from this group. Be present, be active, both social media and any organizations like this that you can be part of. Continue this work of growing and learning. You're going to take away, like Tony said, a couple things from today. What are you going to take away from next week's webinar? And then how are you going to play them forward into your work to create this growth culture?
I
So
think that's awesome.
that kind of leads me to this wrap up of why this all matters. If we're living this, if we're inspiring professional growth, if we're supporting our teams in this way, this model from another book that I love, An Everyone Culture, creating a deliberately developmental organization. This is Robert Keegan, who's the head of the Harvard School of Ed work. Then we are making such a lasting impact. We are we exist to be deliberately developmental with children, but we're not always deliberately developmental with the adults. So think about this. Better me plus better you equals a better us. How are we focusing on constant individual improvement for the me? Better you, how am I helping everyone in my organization grow and develop? And better us. And this is what kind of linked me to this work so deeply. The payoff for everyone in the organization, the community, and the world. To me, there's no other organization that's impacting the world like early childhood. If we're doing this well, we are going to have an impact for our families, for our communities, for the world. And the data's in on this. So just, when you're thinking about takeaways, Tony, think about that. I always think like a Live Strong wristband. Better me, better you, better us. But we want to have a little poll to wrap things up and just sort of see what people are taking away before we do questions.
Absolutely. I'm publishing the poll right now for if you want to read it out for us.
Sure. So what, would be exciting to know, what are you going to do? What strategies are you most excited about incorporating into your leadership work? The positive mindset work, establishing a vision, enhancing your growth culture, intentionally using your time. I don't know if this is set up that they only can pick one, but in some ways hopefully all of them are touching on you. But what's the one that's kind of sparking you right now?
Awesome. And we're having a bunch of people respond right now. We're at over 50% who've responded. This, I think, is great too, because we have talked about a number of different actionable things that you can start right away. And candidly here, you can't start on everything all at once.
Absolutely.
And I love the fact that some of the things you did talk about were really taking, right after the call, sort of taking inventory of where you are. You sort of take inventory before you get started. So with that said, I'm going to end the poll in 5 seconds here. So any last voters like to vote in? All right. And I think we do have a winner, and we'll share the results.
Ah, yes. Well, there's a lot of this positive mindset. Oh,
Look at that. You got a
sorry.
winner.
Got a winner. That was my 40-minute marker. So I was right on time with that. But this sense of everything else is going to grow from that mindset. And if you're not familiar with Barbara Fredrickson's work around positivity, her book is called Positivity. She's one of the leading world researchers around positivity. I give it out for holiday gifts, for graduation gifts. Beautiful book. What can I do? What are those strategies? And how do I make those changes? And really thinking about owning that work. And then, creating that, connecting that to your growth culture, connecting that to your vision, connecting that to what you're doing every single day is really, really key.
And
So
what I
it's been,
observe here too is these aren't that far off. There is not a dominant winner here.
yes,
So
yes.
these are all pretty close to each other. Yeah, maybe utilizing your time a little bit farther behind, but I think you've got a pretty nice, diverse, response here.
And to me, I think it's whatever's sort of singing to you, own it. Don't go on to the next thing. Pause, think about it, take a look at the resource sheet that I sent you. If you want any more resources on any of these, reach out to me. I can put up the next slide, Tony, and
Yeah.
I put up my
Oh,
my
bear with me.
contact information for you. So please know that you can email me. What was that book that you said? What was that? I'm here.
And
I
actually, one person did ask. Melissa asked, what was the positive book called again, and by who?
Barbara Fredrickson, and it's called Positivity.
Awesome. Great. So we have about a minute or two left for any questions. If anybody does have any questions for Susan, this has been wonderful. I think, you're absolutely in alignment with what we believe around leadership. We believe in a strong culture. We believe on sort of looking at the whole dynamics of what makes your schools run and work. And I would encourage anybody out there that definitely reach out to Susan if you have questions for her, or if you wonder how she can help you engage and bring your schools to the next level. So with that said, I don't see any Q&As come up. I got one more that just popped in, and it was a thank you. So you did get a thank you for it. And we really appreciate it. And I want to thank you, because this has been a very engaging, very positive executive pop-up webinar session. So we are very happy to have you here. And for those of you who have attended, again, we will be sending out any information that has come. This will also go out as a replay. You do have an opportunity to get a certificate for these sessions. So if you do want that certificate, please do not hesitate to reach out to us and or Susan directly. And if you do reach out to us, we will get the questions to Susan. And Susan, maybe sometime in the future, you'll join us back here for another session.
Oh, absolutely. So, as you can tell, I love to talk about this. So no problem at all. Great to connect with all of you.
Wonderful. Well, it's great to have you on board. And from Tony DiAugustino with SelfCare 360, we'd like to thank you very much for joining our pop-up webinar series. Our next series for our business benchmarking will be at April 27th at 1:30 with the team from RDG&P. Again, I want to thank Susan MacDonald for her time, energy, and positivity here today. It's been wonderful. We want to thank you very much for joining us, and we hope you all have a wonderful week. So thank you very much, and we'll talk to everybody very soon.